the victim the freedom that they were able to get yesterday is because of the people that are sitting here with me. We held buyers accountable. We're going to tell you the story. But I also want to bring in the importance of our friends that work with us when it comes to Ghost, and that is Nisi Holloman at Voices for Children, which is where we are right now. And then Eric Liskey, who has been an educator for
27
years. A principal of Flint Cultural
Center
Academy right here in Flint, formerly from Davison. But what your staff did, we're going to get into that. And then we have a message for you, because everybody watching that has any type of influence over vulnerable people, the elderly, the addicted, the young, whatever it is, even when you see something, you gotta act on it. And that's where we got this guy, is because of the courage of a young victim to come forward that reported an incident that Eric called me direct, and the Ghost team was dispatched. So tell us what happened.
For sure. So we have a teacher that builds, we have a number of teachers that build great relationships with kids. Making positive connections is our number one priority. Nothing happens until those wonderful relationships are built. And this young lady was super courageous, and because of that positive and trustworthy, supportive relationship she had with her teacher, she was able to share a heart-wrenching, unthinkable situation that she had been going through. It was brought to my attention, and relationships with kids, relationships with law enforcement matter. That's what we have to focus on, is developing these relationships where this communication is continuously open, because I felt comfortable enough to reach out to Sheriff Swanson and say I need some help.
I think the common theme here is relationships, because as soon as Eric sent me the text, I immediately dispatched the Ghost team. We got a hold of Voices and said we have a young victim that needs to be interviewed. And when we do that, Nisi, your staff just kicks it into gear 24/7. Why is it so important to have a solid forensic interview, and why is Voices for Children so important to that process?
It's a kid-friendly place. That's why we're here right now. You see all of the toys that we have, but everything that we do here is dedicated to the child. We want to make sure that we are trauma-informed, that we are victim-centered in the work that we're doing. And so we're working not only with Ghost, but my staff, they are really intentionally making sure that the child is okay, that the teen is okay, whatever we can do. This particular child got a little heart that looks just like this. It's a helping heart. And we have law enforcement, their families, the person who made this, they all rub love into it to let the child know that they are loved, that they are cared for, because that's what we do. Not only are we doing the forensic interview to help with justice, but we are also about restoration for that child, about healing for that child, about hope for that child.
And now I'm going to tell you the story about where he is and how he's held accountable, and then an incredible statement made by this young victim in a minute. But can you explain what a forensic interview is and the term trauma-informed?
Yes, forensic interview is a child-friendly way of talking to a child about trauma that has happened to them. So imagine something horrific happening to you, and you have to go to a police station or to CPS. They come to a place that looks like a house that's made for them with kid-friendly toys. You see stuffed animals everywhere. The staff will do TikToks with them. Law enforcement will do TikTok dances with the kid. And what we're really about is trying to ensure that we're able to talk to the child about what has happened, but not create more trauma for them, not to trigger anything more happening to that child. And so we have crisis counselors available after they get done talking about what's happened. And it is an evidence-based approach that we do, where we talk in a non-leading manner to ask whatever question is necessary. Amazing. However law enforcement wants to ask their question, our staff has an earpiece in just to ask the question in a more child-friendly way.
And the word forensic means criminal investigation. So like, just take for example, a pathologist that studies somebody who has passed away or disease. That's different than a forensic pathologist that looks at evidence on the examination. And so the interview that their staff does here, that's sometimes the only evidence we have to get the case charged through David Layton's office and the prosecutor's office.
Exactly.
And when she's talking to earpieces, our law enforcement that comes to the Big Blue House, as their staff is rolling on the floor and playing whatever and however long it takes to build up a rapport, we are listening, we're watching, and it's just incredible. it's an incredible way to get the most graphic, heart-wrenching details out of somebody who doesn't want to relive it, but yet we give them that comfort to do it.
Definitely. We take the time, we allow them to pause, we allow them to do what's necessary in order for them to process and tell us what has happened in their own way, their own voice, the best way that they can.
So this is a young victim that was victimized by this guy right here. And this victim was related to the suspect. And this victim had been victimized over a long period of time. And they aren't the only one in the family. He's already got a conviction of child abuse from 2015. There was some other things that happened in the house in 2014 to another child. He's got 3. And we're looking into that because that didn't get, based on what we have now, investigated on every level that we should. So we're looking at a 2014 case. He's already got the conviction of a 2015 case. He already spent a large portion of the time in the Genesee County Jail. Then he has this little one in his custody, and she comes forth to a teacher, a first-year teacher. Tell me the process of mandatory reporting in schools and why the system worked at Flint Cultural.
Absolutely. So as educators, we are required by law to report any suspicion of child abuse that's reported to us. That's not always easy to get out of kids. It's tough to talk about. So those relationships are key. You're correct, Sheriff, that this was a first-year teacher who is doing amazing work in the classroom, but most importantly, the relationships that she is building with the students that she works with obviously is outstanding. Huge. Because she was able to, it took 2 days. The first day the little girl talked to her, she didn't share all the details. And the way that she handled that situation encouraged and empowered the young lady to the following day on Friday share that information with her. So.
And then the teacher took the information to where?
Correct. To our school social worker and myself.
The importance of social workers in professional settings is priceless. Yeah. Again, as good as we are, there's people that don't feel comfortable talking to DC. There's people that don't feel comfortable talking to me or Eric. Sure. But if you bring in another party and there's just a connection, then that could be the key. And that's what unlocked this little one to tell the story of the one who had been torturing and renting space in her head every single day. And I don't mean physical torture. I'm talking about emotional torture. I'm talking about psychological torture. You know, when the little ones come in here, Voices for Children interviews individuals up until the age of 17.
Correct. Yeah.
If the incident happened even if they're an adult, when they weren't 17, you'll still interview them. Exactly. Where do people go if they're not kids and they're victimized?
You know, one, come to law enforcement, have a conversation, but then we'll connect you with resources in the community for the trauma-based therapy that's necessary. While we have therapy here, we have partners in the community that are also providing therapy as well for them.
But there's always a place to go. Don't feel like you're alone. What about in your school? What if an adult or one of your staff members needs to report something to all the educators out there? There's a lot of principals that do great work, superintendents, teachers. What do you look out for as an adult with other adults?
Sure. So we're constantly trying to build relationships with our staff crew and our student crew. We meet and speak to one another frequently. We're watching for changes in behavior. It's not easy. It's not easy as an adult to report something that's going on that's not right. So hopefully, I know the educators that I'm familiar with in Genesee County, and those educators, they make connections with kids. They put kids first, and I'm sure that's the vast majority of educators are doing that. But for those educators that are out there that are caught up in curriculum, caught up in the day-to-day grind, it's about kids. It's about building relationships with kids and checking on that teacher that's next door and that interventionist that's down the hall and that secretary and making sure that you create. Our mission statement says at FCCA, we are family. That's the first line, and we take care of one another.
And I think it's important to realize that people out there watching, because we saw it yesterday, ABC 12 and Mid-Michigan Now reported it, they're here today, that we had a victim come forward who's now 30 years old. And I know that there are professions out there where they try to help people, but they themselves are victims, and they've never come forward. And that's why it's important that your voice be heard too, wherever you are. Law enforcement, whether you're in social work, whether you're in education, it's hard for you to help other people if you can't help yourself. And those resources are out there. Ghost is out there. When it comes to the grooming part of it, when it comes to knowing more, I go back, Sergeant Sprague will put in the comments, gcsomichigan.com. You can go and tap into our Ghost Certified program. 3 incredible videos that we have. And I promote this all the time because it shows you what grooming is. It shows you the interesting prostitution and human trafficking and what steps to take. And we go over, we review the Nasser case, and we talk about platforms that are being used. You take a test after that, and then we send you a recognition, a certificate, and a sticker. That Ghost certification is going to give you the first line of defense of what to look out for. If you're not an educator, or you're not a professional social worker, an interviewer, or a police officer, you run a store, you run a business, you're at a church, but you need to know these things. Human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world today. And this guy right here is part of this whole thing because kids do not have the ability to fend off on people like this. He was charged by David Layton's office with 5 counts of CSC first degree, which are life offenses. He's locked up in the Genesee County Jail right this very second. And the investigation continues, and it's the courage of this little girl that came to your teacher, and your teacher went to the social worker, brought it to you, your relationship with me, my relationship with Genesee, and that's how it's supposed to work, which is the theme of the story. But as we leave, final thoughts. This is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day in America. And that's why we're wearing these colors, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're promoting this message, because it just happened. And if it's happening here, it's happening all over the place. So be on the lookout. I'd love to see today a massive download of Ghost certification where people are educated. I'd love to see people encourage others that have come forward. But the message is, if you have a story and you need to tell it, find somebody like Eric, find somebody like Genesee, find somebody like that first-year teacher and tell the story. Because once he was arrested, and this little one went back to your school, and she was loved on.
Yes.
She said that she had the best weekend of her life because her abuser was in custody. I hope that message resonates to all the Ghost investigators out there, all the other investigators out there across the country that do this kind of work. Your little ones that you're protecting, they have the best weekend of their life because of you, and because of you. That's why we're here. So thanks for tuning in. Share the message. Download the training. Thank your educators. Thank your teachers. Thank your social workers. Thank those in the field that are doing this. We will not stop. We are relentless, and we will be the voice for the voiceless. I'll see you next time.